Hey, what's up, everybody? Aseer the Duketeers once again. Shout outs to everybody that's been reposting a lot of our material that we've been doing over the past 15, almost 17 years now. Thank you guys for, especially people in Instagram, places like that, because I don't really be on there. I don't have no Instagram page. I don't have no Snapchat. I don't have none of that. I'm so in the real world that it's hard sometimes to juggle all this virtual stuff when you actually live in real life. So I definitely want to give thanks and praise to everybody for all of that. And also respect and praise to all of the people who have lasted or we lost during the beginning of the so-called Jason months that started in July. We're now in the last month of Jason. And it's been popping. It's been mass shootings. It's been like church shootings. Everybody's sweeping the white terrorism, the white male terrorism under the rug. Like, that's all good. You know, they're going to do what they're going to do. One of the interesting things, though, is that there's now striving to openly criminalize you being or identifying with being black. Now, a lot of us that over the years have gone through different understandings of what black as a adjective may mean, what black as a being means, what black in legal definitions and stuff means, or whatever. I'm not trying to get into that bag. I'm not trying to make you feel bad if you identify with that. I'm not trying to make you feel bad if you don't. What I'm trying to say is now is the time for you to get your ish together when it comes to understanding that no stateless being is going to be allowed to exist in any nations that are going into this new reset period. And this reset period is not based upon what's happening with Russia, even though it kind of is. We're not even going to talk about the coming war that's going on. It's about to pop off in Africa. Right now you have United States clandestine services as well as other organizations in Africa actively pursuing negative agendas, meaning they're out there, like right now in Cameroon. Peace to my brother Guy L out there. In Cameroon, you have a situation now where you have the English-speaking minority, right, who are Asiatics, who are Moors. Then you have the French-speaking majority who run the government, all that, who are Asiatic, who are Moors. But they have issues with each other based upon the fact that the French-speaking majority is now trying to infringe on the English-speaking minority. Now, the interesting thing is Cameroon as an actual country, just like a lot of other so-called African countries, was brought about after colonialism. So you had France, and then you had like Britain. And then right when they knew they had to get out the country, they decided to bring both forces together, and then out of that came Cameroon. Now, Cameroon had a rich history before that, just like the Sudan. At one point, the Sudan was a part of Egypt. That's how far it went in, which means all of the people who are Sudanese today, at one point in their history, looked like us predominantly, meaning darker skin, and they were part of Egypt, right? That got broke down by people like George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and these people who were over there doing the Darfur thing. But that whole Darfur thing was set up to eventually put what they call the Boko Haram in position. What is the Boko Haram? That's like the African ISIS, right? So you got all of these groups that are there to destabilize the so-called post-colonialist African governments, but a lot of these post-colonial African governments are still paying tribute to the European governments, like France. You know what I'm saying? They have this thing called the continuation, the Pact for the Continuation of Colonialization. And so you have about 64 of these African nations that's still paying money to these European nations to keep them afloat. But what this has done is created a blowback situation where now you get so much African immigration into Europe, it's now pushing the Europeans out, being their birth record is like 1.3, which means that they're not going to be able to actively sustain a so-called white male or Caucasian population within the next 10, 20 years. It's all going to be either Africans, so-called Arabs, or anybody that's not traditionally from Europe. So the question is, where all the Europeans going to go? Right? Where they going to go? Well, they already have issues over here. They already have situations over here through the mob, right? Because what you got to understand is, after, historically speaking, when we speak of the OSS was the precursor to the CIA, right? The OSS was the organization that helped move all the Nazis out and then put them into governments here, whether it be in South America, all the way up into the United States, and then created a traditional category system to keep track of these people and eventually engender them to whatever they was doing in Nazi Germany, doing that here. That's why eugenics and all of that is so big here. So when you talk about vaccinations, when you talk about whatever, let's talk about what it really is. There is a agenda to exterminate as many original Asiatic people off the planet as they can, period. And what I'm saying is, the irony is, everybody's down with it. It's not just white people that want that. It's black people that want that. It's Chinese people that want that. It's Spanish people that want that. There's a lot of people that want that. So what you got to understand is, in a society then where the so-called minority that is being targeted, right? Because to be a minority by legal definition means that you are oppressed. Look it up. So what they want to do is get everybody caught up in the transportation of this agenda. Now, I don't know if you understand what the word transportation means, but it don't mean to go from one place to the next. It means to remove people, to remove, get rid of. So when you have the Department of Transportation, that's a department to remove people, to move agendas, to engender people to be constricted to whatever confines of stereotype that they've created for themselves to exist in. And so because stateless people, i.e. people who identify themselves as colors, or people who are traditionally anchored into statutory living, meaning that you can't exist, meaning that you are on perpetual probation or whatever it is, you under some sort of legal protuberance. What that means now is that you are the #1 target. You're the target in the sense that anyone that is stateless in this society right now, in any global society right now, is falling under these little agendas. And what's happening is you have a bunch of illegal courts that are opening up all over the country and the world. Like right now, people don't know that there's a such thing as vaccination court. Did you know about that? There's a court where if your child gets made retarded by getting a vaccine, or is made autistic by getting a vaccine or whatever, they've already made laws. Supreme Court already made laws where you can't even sue them no more for that. If you want to get bread for that, or you want to see some sort of restitution, you got to go to a court that's sponsored by the pharmaceutical companies, which means pharmaceutical companies have their own jurisdiction when it comes to medicine. You understand? So that means then, if you don't have some sort of national political situation where people around you have a community where y'all all gonna stand up and say that we're not down with that, then you just gonna fall into the stateless pile, and they're gonna vaccinate your child and put you with this Agenda 21 thing that they've been doing. But from the time that I was a child from the time I first started doing this knowledge to now, I've heard Global 2000, I've heard Rex 84, I've heard King Alfred, I've heard the Northwoods Plan, the Brentwood Doctrine, MK Naomi, MK Ultra. All of these are actual real government sponsored programs that are still running today. But we understand them as Planned Parenthood, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, any pseudo organization that perpetuates to help people, right, with humanitarian aid, when really it's a need to basically use humanitarian aid to break the nucleus of the population. And the nucleus of the Asiatic or Moorish or black or whatever population you want, whatever you want to call it, no matter what you call yourself, is the children. That's your community. That's your future. That is your active restitution and the people who will avenge you in the future. So what they have now done is created or setting up the perpetual wars to get your children out of your care altogether. So because women don't want to be women and they want to just go and they want to shoot guns and they want to box and play football and do all this other stuff, they've now made it now where it's going to be, when they do drafts, when they reinstate that, because they're about to do that, when they reinstate the drafts, women are not going to be excluded from that. which means that if you just have a baby, whatever, and you're in the reserve and they want you in, you're going in. Because this war that's coming in Africa is going to be heavy. But the wars in Africa that's happening is really between the United States and China. Because the United States has been paying China's deficit for so long that the United States don't want to pay no more. Also, throughout the world, the global trading markets are flipping to alternative forms of currency, for whether it be Bitcoin, whether it be gold money, whether it be this or that. People are finding different ways to deal with. Even certain communities setting themselves up with straight barter systems are actually starting to see themselves in the black instead of the red. So now what's happening is you have a situation where the United States can't pay China this deficit money back. So what they want to do is destabilize China in what they're doing in Africa. Because regardless to what you want to say, as much as the Africans, and I'm not trying to disrespect no African nations or African nationals, what I am saying though, y'all got an issue with the fact that in y'all court proceedings, y'all are still wearing the Wigmen, the Lord Redmond wig, the Wigman Party wigs. Y'all still wearing the European wigs, and y'all still are adopting the European system of doing business, which then means because they got a copyright on that, right, you are still technically under the jurisdiction of them. So regards to what you want to say, Mugabe, right, and that's my man, he's really going hard with the racial politics, but the fact that you still are governing yourselves under the European version of law, you are opening yourself up to European intrusion. So at the same token now, because they've given up so much money in China, China's invested so much money in Africa, they having free reign. Now what's happening is you got Chinese. See, the Chinese are smart. They know that based on them billion plus people they got over there, they need to expand their reach, because they're not going to be able to sustain their society the way that it is because of the pollution and everything else. So now what they're trying to do is reinvest themselves into the Asiatic starting with the Africans. So you have a bunch of Chinese workers who exist in these African nations, and they're marrying these African women and having these African babies. But now what that does is give them right to stay in the land. You see what I'm saying? Which then now this new product now, the Chinese Asiatic African, right? The Chinese Asiatic African now is going to now be in control of Africa. But guess what? That's cool so long as the African-born child from the Chinese and the African woman or whatever, so long as that child has the right to go back to China and establish nationality and business and commerce and all that there, then it's all good. But I don't think that's necessarily the case right now. So what y'all need to do is start to go back and build up your infrastructure. Right? Go back and challenge these useless documentations like the continuation of colonization pact. Get rid of that, man. Y'all got an African Union of 64 nations. Because see, what's going to spill over there is going to come over here. Because as much as the so-called blacks over here want to keep calling themselves Africans and want to keep calling themselves African Americans going back to Africa, guess what? When the Africans come here, they are not listed as African. They're listed as white. So you're trying to annex yourself to somebody that when they come here don't even refer to themselves as that. So who's crazy? Not me, not you, but the people that's invested in that, you're gonna have a problem. So again, start looking into alternative forms of currency. Start looking into extending your reach when it comes to jurisdiction. Meaning, start to get yourself together when it comes to establishing your national character, so that way you can build your estate, so that way you can use that estate to interface and start to capitalize on the fact that we are the original proprietors of the land, the original people of the land. Therefore, we can take this anywhere, because I guarantee you, go online to fidelity.com or gmiutility.com, run your name, run your social security card, and you will find that social security number, and you'll find that your name is doing business in countries all over the world. So if you don't want to make yourself the principal within those accounts for you to receive annuity payments from those accounts, then don't bother. But if you do, and you know that there's something in that, holla at your boy, houseofl@hotmail.com. I didn't want to make this one too long. I'm going to get another one up. We're going to strive to be more consistent in putting them up even more. But again, it's hard to be doing all this heavy research, trying to help people, striving to establish the embassy, striving to get the government on, keeping the crackers away, right? Dealing with people when they need help, raising my family, first of all. You know what I'm saying? Striving to be a good father, striving to be a good mate. It's a lot. So a lot of people who have been calling and you've been leaving your messages on the 800 number, I guarantee you, after the fiscal new year, January is, somebody's going to be calling you back. Just, you know, call, leave your message. Inshallah, when I have the positioning, because that's what's going on now, infrastructure. That's the number one thing. Whether it's a government, a family, a house, a home, individual, you need infrastructure. And unfortunately, our people suffer from that. Through things like gentrification, things like using instrumentalities, things of disinheriting each other by proxy. They done put your boy Colin Kaepernick on the front of the joint because now he's the new face for the revolution. But guess what, guys? Do y'all remember what happened right before he started kneeling? Y'all don't remember that they caught him with the transgender person in the whip? Y'all don't remember that, right? Right? Because now he's the face of black revolution, right? Him and Jesse Williams, right? And Obama and these other people. So if that's the case, who's Marcus Garvey? What is he the face of? Who's Noble Drew Ali? Who he the face of? Who Khalid Muhammad? Who he the face of? Who are any of these greats that we still have not reconciled what really happened to them? And the fact that we have no means of active protection for any of our communities. So until the Moors or until the RBGs or the Nawapians or whoever want to come together and create an active council, right? Y'all niggas always want government or talk about how y'all want infrastructure, right? Get together and work out a rexos of how to build up the infrastructure, not just in your community, but wherever people of your community exist. Because that's the only way we're going to be able to survive, because the agenda, the jig is up. They're not going to lock no white people up for killing black people. They're not going to do that. The first time this may happen is when this dude Dylan Roof is about to get, they made him candidate for the death penalty. So this might be the first time you ever see a cracker actually hung for actually shooting up black people. But then again, it's theater. Remember, it's all theater. Remember, it's all false flag. Remember, it's all agenda. So we can't get overly engrossed and overly emotional in these false flag shootings, in these mass shootings and all of that, if nobody's ever going to be held accountable. So with that, I want to say thank you. Love and light to you. Respect yourself. Respect your family. Let's hold up. Respect ourselves first of all, or most of all. And again, peace.